Hey everybody, quick little update. I wanted to show you the additional strengthening of the bed that I was mentioning in prior videos that I'm going to be doing. I just finished welding two of them on here. I have one more to do, and then I need to make supports for them, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. So the first additional cross member that I added is this one right here. I actually had an extra one of these U-channel signposts. I only needed 3 to put the bed back together, but the fourth one was just sitting there. And my big complaint again is how thin the bed floor is. Look how thin. I don't know if you can see that, but you see how thin the material is that this is? This is a Dodge bed. And I know the Chevy C10s are as well. They're thin just like this. I'm not sure about Ford, though, but I know the modern trucks are all really thin, but I'm not sure about Ford as far as older vehicles from the 70s, 80s, 90s. But this Dodge bed is from the 70s up to the 90s, so Dodge has been skimping and cheating people for decades now, decades and decades, as far as how crappy their beds are. And I know there's a guy who is following me. I can't remember his name. I subscribe to him, too. And I know he rebuilds these things. He's done tons of them apparently, and I'm sure he can agree with me that all these beds are they're just freaking thin. I actually saw a video of his where he was taking apart the bed, and the old floor and all that stuff, the cross members were gone, and the old floor was just flopping around like toilet paper. I mentioned it in his video. And my original Jeep bed, which is 16 gauge, it's like 2 to 3 times thicker than this thing. Even though all my cross members were rotted, the original floor was just straight. So if the floor, fell down, it fell down straight. It wasn't flopping around, you know what I mean? So, and when I stand on this thing, as I mentioned in a previous video, where my knee is pushing right here, this whole floor just drops down, and that's not cool, especially if I plan to use this thing as like a work truck or a farm vehicle or whatever. I don't want the bed to start having deep pits and divots and all that stuff in there. So anyway, I added this thing to it. And it's not bolted to the frame. It just goes, it's just spot welded all the way across. It goes all the way across over here, and that's actually the original way the Jeep had it. Was the Jeep mount used to be right here for the cross member, and it went all the way across to the outside fender right here, and that actually added support not only to the floor, but also to this thing right here, because when you grab the top and wiggle it, this thing actually would move without that cross member there. So now that the cross member is there, it doesn't move anymore. So that's the way Jeep intended it, and that's the way it is. The other cross member I added, because I don't have any more of these, is T-posts. And like I said, one of the mounts over there for the Dodge mount is a T-post, and there's nothing wrong with T-posts. They are 3/16 thick. They're actually thicker than these, and because they're shaped as a T, they're actually stronger than this thing. They have less surface area to support, unlike these, which is 3 inches wide. These are only like an inch and a half or so. But the T-posts are definitely stronger than these things. So you can see I welded a T-post here, and again, just like this one, it's welded in between this and that cross member. That's the original one from Dodge that this bed still had. So now it's like 8 inches from here to there, 8 inches from here to there, and before it was like, sorry, is it 8 inches or 9 inches? I can't remember, but before it was like 19 or 18 inches difference between these. So it's quite a bit of a distance. But now that this is here, and this is here, this floor is not going to sag anymore. There's a third one I need to add. And the third one, technically, it has to be like right here where this center cross member for the frame is, because the Dodge mount is here, and then you got another Dodge mount right over there. So I'm going to have to add it either behind this or in the front of it. Not up against it, but just close to it, so at least so this floor over here can get some support too. I don't need to add any more over here because I already had that T-post there from the get-go that I added, but since these are floating, and this is floating, technically it'll still support the floor, but the floor will still drop with the cross member, if that makes sense. So to support these, I need to take some more T-posts, and I need to actually cut them to the length for this and this lip. So it's going to be welded to this lip and welded to that lip, and then another one welded to the lip here, and another one welded to that lip, and then one welded from here to the cross member right there, and then this one right here to that one. That way, this cross member that's bolted to the frame is supporting this one, and this cross member that's bolted to the frame will be supporting it on the other side of that. And then same for this. Another T-post welded right there, and then another one welded on the lip of this, and etc. So that way this supports that. And then of course another one here, and then another one on the Dodge cross member. So that way, even though this is not bolted to the frame, it's still supported by the frame via the cross members that are bolted to the frame. I know it's confusing, but that's just the way it's going to work. So anyway, I'm going to stop for tonight. But if you guys are doing stuff like this to your beds, like if you got a Jeep like mine and you know this has inspired you to replace your bed floor and you want to get a donor, you want to get like a Chevy bed or a Dodge bed or so forth, I highly recommend that you add the additional supports. And even if you have a Ford, Chevy, or whatever Dodge, and you add the new bed to it, even for modern ones, I still recommend that you add additional supports, because if the older ones are really thin and flimsy, the newer ones are, I guarantee you, thin and flimsy. So unless it's like some F350 or something like that. But I've even seen complaints of people with a 250 and 350 say that the floor just bends and wiggles when they walk on it. So if you need to do this for like your 90s or early 2000s bed or something like that, add additional supports. T-posts are cheap. They're like $4, $5 in Tractor Supply or whatever. So it's a really cheap cross member. So, and as you guys can see, I did wire wheel all of this, so it is painted with rust reformer. This is all done now. I don't need to do any more welding. All of that is welded in. All the walls are welded in now. Yeah, there's gaps, like I said, because it's all just spot welded or bead welded 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. I need to do one more coat of rust reformer just to make sure I got it all, and then after I let it dry for a few days, I'm going to take some seam sealer, as I said, and seal all the joints. So, but that's the update I wanted to show you guys as far as additional cross members. Maybe I'm going overkill now, but I can guarantee you if I stand right here, it ain't going to move anymore. So thanks for watching, guys, and hope you enjoy. Thank you.